Hey guys, it's Andre from the High Performance Academy. We're here at SEMA with Stephan Papadakis from Papadakis Racing. Now, Stephan's got a fairly rich history both in drag racing and now in drifting. He was one of the pioneers of front-wheel drive Honda drag racing, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about that. He's more recently been crew chief and tuner for Frederick Aspo's Scion TC, and we're going to talk to him about the tuning of that. So thanks for joining us, Stephan. I really appreciate you coming along.
Yeah, always great to talk about the race cars.
Let's start with the Honda stuff. So you really were one of the first people out there doing it in the US. You know, you got in there with when there wasn't a lot of support and a lot of technology around. What were the biggest challenges you faced in getting a front-wheel drive Honda to go fast?
Yeah, the biggest trouble, the most trouble we had was with traction actually. There weren't good tires designed for front-wheel drive, and just really understanding how to apply the power in stages when we were basically overpowering. We could make more power than we had traction at the time.
So when did the fix come in for the traction? Was it development of better tires that helped you?
Yep, so once we started figuring out which tires worked well for the drag racing, and then we could get drivetrain that wouldn't break with that additional traction, and we started learning how to control boost strategies, using a lower boost in first and second gear and then ramping it up towards the end of the track.
Yeah, sure, that's got to be really important. What were you doing? How were you controlling that boost?
So at first, you know, if I think back to maybe year 2000, we were making about 650 horsepower, and that was probably about 28 pounds of boost. And we had a Greddy Profec B boost control because they were the ones that had the little wireless two-stage button. So I'd put that on the steering wheel, and we'd start with like 12 pounds of boost out of first, shift to second, I'd go back to the steering wheel, hit the button, and then go to third, and it was pretty busy in the car.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too easy to get a consistent run.
Yeah, you know, we didn't even have a two-step rev limiter back then, so I'd kind of hold the RPM at, okay, I think we're going to, you know, about 5,000 RPM launch and get the clutch to where it's about to engage and launch, shift second, you know, then grab the boost control and go to third and end of the track, pull the parachute, and all the time this front-wheel drive, poorly aligned car is just all over the track.
So we've kind of got it easy these days with the technology that's available with two-step launch control and electronic boost control, etc.
Totally. You know, when we were doing these cars back then, we were like a step above just garage mechanics. You know, we had a good amount of experience at the track, but we didn't have any real data or any people that we were trailblazing at the time. So we didn't have any gurus to talk to about how to do this stuff for front-wheel drive.
You guys basically ended up becoming the gurus.
Yeah, you broke a lot of parts and pretty dangerous the whole time, but it was exciting.
So you said you didn't really have any data from the cars. At what point did you sort of start getting proper electronic engine management and data logging to go along with these cars?
Sure. 2001, when we built the second Civic front-wheel drive drag car, it had a Motec 48 in it. And that one actually had on board data logging where you didn't have to have the whole laptop in the car. So we actually utilized it. And then we can get back and see what our boost levels were and then adjust where we would have that boost increase. And we would also be able to adjust air fuels throughout the weekend.
So with the ability to data log all of that stuff onto the M48, how much did that help you improve or go faster with the cars?
Well, at first, it really helped us just being consistent because we can go to different tracks and different weather conditions and be able to tune it back to where we knew it should be as far as air-fuel ratio, and then started getting us used to what the data looked like that we were getting back and saying, okay, well, we can see where the tire's spinning here. So we can go back and adjust boost levels, and then that is where you really started seeing the ET starting getting quicker and quicker because it's this power management of ongoing power management instead of just like the driver's feel, it's actual data.
How fast did you end up going in a front-wheel drive car?
Back in 2001, we quarter mile in 8.12 seconds at 184 miles an hour.
That's pretty serious for a front-wheel drive.
Yeah, that was pretty quick back then. I think it took 3 years or something before somebody was able to match that.
So these days you've got more involved with the drifting. So tell us how you went from drag racing to drifting. It seems like a hard bit to sort of put the pieces together.
Yeah, from basically 16 years old street racing to 18 years old going to the Battle of the Import races, and all the way till I was my mid 20s, just 10 years of drag racing pretty much, and just wanted to do something a little bit different. And I built a little Nissan 240 drift car and started trying to learn how to drift, and just wanted to do something a little bit different. We decided to do a two-car drift program, and me in an S2000 and Tanner Faust in a 350Z, and decided to park the drag car and just go full drifting. He would be the A driver, and I was just the B driver and the guy building the cars. And the whole scene and everything was just really building at that point, and we were, I guess, there at the right time.
So these days you've taken a step back and you're not doing the driving anymore. You're building and tuning the car for Frederick Aspo as Scion TC. Can you tell us a little bit, give us a tech rundown on that? What's the car running? What's it running for engine management, etc.?
Sure. It's a 2012 Scion TC, which is a car that they have here in the U.S. It's front-wheel drive, and it comes with a 2.5 liter, 2AR engine. So it's what's in like a Toyota Camry. It's a very popular engine. We actually convert the car to rear-wheel drive. So different engine mounts and racing transmission, the G-Force GSR transmission, and put the Supra JZ80 rear end and axles and everything. And we make, the thing makes 700 and something horsepower just on the turbo, and we have 100 shot nitrous on top of that on ethanol E85 fuel.
It seems like the drift guys over here in the States for Formula Drift, power is really a critical thing. If you haven't got maybe 900 or 1,000 horsepower, you're just not in the field. And how has that progressed? Why is it so critical these days to have so much power?
Yep, so the way the competition with the drifting is there's that tandem where the guy has to be able to chase and stay close. Well, speed has become a big component of the drifting competition. And in order to get that speed, you need a lot of grip. Well, in order to keep that tire spinning at that grip level, you need a lot of horsepower to push that tire. So as speeds increased and grip increased, the necessity for higher horsepower increased as well.
Okay, I'm interested in how you make a drift car work with both a turbocharger and a large shot of nitrous. In my own experience with nitrous is it's quite aggressive when it switches on. You've got that whole hit of power all in one go. So how are you working that?
Yep, so we run a relatively small nitrous shot. So we run about 100 horsepower nitrous shot on a 700 horsepower engine. So when it comes in, it is pretty strong, but that's what we want. We want the tires to spin up quickly. That's sort of the point. We want that loss of traction, because the driver might be behind somebody and has to let off for a second and be able to get back on it and have that power there, right away. And the way we do that actually is through the AEM system. Everything's just turned on and armed, and throughout parameters within the ECU, throttle position, boost, RPM, when it's inside that window, the nitrous kicks on. But once the engine makes 28 pounds of boost, then it'll shut back off and we have the power that we need.
So you're sort of using it as more of an anti-lag rather than to deliver extra power right through the whole rev range?
Exactly. We can make enough power just on the turbo, but we don't get the power as quickly as we want to. That's what we use the nitrous for.
Okay. Now, just talking about the actual tuning techniques, is there something or anything particularly that you're doing different when you're tuning a high-end competition drift car as opposed to maybe a street car?
We spend a lot of time on part throttle because the drivers are out there. They're not always floored or off like a drag car. It might be more like a street car, actually. So we'll actually do full throttle pulls to redline, and we'll back off and we'll do 80% throttle pulls. We'll do 60% throttle pulls, and all the way down to like 15% throttle pulls. And we'll have to drop a gear. We might not be able to do that in fourth gear. We might do the 20% throttle pulls in only second gear or first gear on the dyno. That way it'll pull through the RPM band. But we really want to have a very filled in map as far as tuning. That way, regardless of the throttle position they're at, it's always tuned well and is very responsive.
So that's for, let's say, the area where the car's already sideways, it's already maybe spinning the tyres and maybe hitting the limiter and the driver's backing off the throttle. That's to make sure that area of the map is correct, yes?
Exactly. We want to make sure that there's no holes in the tuning. Another big thing is with these drift cars, like Frederick Osba loves to stay his foot to the floor. And something with really high horsepower, if the car's already sideways, it wants to go and sit on the rev limiter. So we actually use an RPM-based boost control. So our TC will run to 8,200 RPM. That's the rev limiter. After about 7,500 RPM, we actually have the boost taper back out. That way, he can stay full throttle, and once the RPMs go above 7,500, the horsepower gets pulled back, and the engine wants to sit in that sweet spot range where it's got a lot of tire speed because you have a lot of engine RPM, but it also has a lot of torque below the RPM range that we're using. So if the car starts to get traction and the engine RPM starts getting pulled back down, there's actually more available power at that lower RPM. And so we can always keep the tires spinning.
Let's talk a little bit about the data logging on the car. I mean, you've got a sophisticated electronics package. How important with drifting is data logging, and what are you looking for when Frederick comes back in from a run?
So a couple of key things at the beginning of the weekend would be gear ratios. So we'll look and see what RPM he is in certain parts of the track to see if we need to change the gear ratio. Making sure it's tuned properly, but nowadays with the new electronics, and it's different than 2001. The stuff now with the good O2 controllers, and you can run closed loop, and we can tune it so well that we rarely do changes at the track as far as tuning goes. I would say the biggest thing is we log probably 50 parameters, and throughout the weekend, I'll look at the log and make sure that there's nothing out of spec. So we can see if there's a sensor that might be going out, or any problem that might be giving us a problem later, we can usually catch it pretty early.
So you're using it more for maybe monitoring health of the systems and the engine as opposed to actually using it to increase the performance?
Exactly.
Okay, look, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us, Stephan. It's been really interesting. I've definitely learned a lot. Look, we'll leave you to it, and we wish you all the best for next season with Frederick.
Cool. Thank you very much.
For online tuning courses, visit learntotune.com.